transition out of this, but also you were a Marine, or you are a Marine, and that experience I've always talked about. If I could hit my reset button, I think it would be such a great experience, and I think, honestly, I believe everyone should have to go through at least boot camp.
Sure.
Find out what you got, you know? It's not gonna, I don't feel like it's gonna put you in a worse position.
No, I don't believe so. Granted, there are some people, you know, with some mental health issues that, okay, let maybe not put you in the service. But for the most part, again, me as an 18, 19-year-old kid, I needed it. I was a little all over the place, didn't really have any guidance. I didn't know where I needed to go. And then you go to boot camp, and it's, again, similar to the martial arts. Like, you work hard, you follow this set of rules. We're not going to surprise you with any rules. Here are your rules. Here's what's expected of you. You meet these expectations, and you will get X, Y, and Z, and these rewards. And again, as an 18-year-old kid, I needed that for sure.
How's the boot camp?
It was tough. The best piece of advice I got was from I'll plug old Dusty Dunn. He's one of our good friends. He went to the Marine Corps before me, and he's somebody I'd looked up to. He's part of the reason I wanted to join the Marines. I'm like, you know, I see Dustin. He's a war hero. I'm like, all right. I like how he carried himself. I'm like, okay, the Marine Corps is on to something. But before I went to boot camp, he told me, he said, hey, don't be the first one to finish. Don't be the last one to finish. Don't stand out. I might have taken that a little too much to heart, because it was about 80% of the way through boot camp, you know, you would get people that either got hurt or, you know, they got sick. And if you miss a certain amount of training, then you get dropped from your group and you just pick up on with another group that's kind of behind you in the training. So it would happen very frequently. So about 80% of the way through boot camp, we're all, you know, in front of our racks, we're online, and the drill instructor come by and expect us. And he looks at me and he goes, Ingarra, what did you pick up with us? And I was like, well, you have to identify yourself as this recruit. I'm like, well, this recruit's been here the entire time. And he's like, oh, you're one of those hidden little pieces of crap. He's like, all right, now that I see you, it's like, I got you. And so I made it a very long time without being noticed, which helped me get by. But I had a rough last month. Because
what type of physical tasks? Like running? Like
a lot of running.
Lifting?
You're on the move all day long. So from sun up to sundown, you're on the move. And it's hot. You know, it's in California. I was out there in the summer. It's hot. They will just dedicate hours out of the day to just break you down. Where it's, I don't want to spoil too many secrets, but it's like, let's say you're a group of drill instructors here. There's another group 500 yards away. And they would say, hey, go to that drill instructor. You run as fast as you can. Like, too slow. Go back to that one. Too slow. You guys aren't moving fast enough. And you would do that for hours. All right, let's roll around in the sand. You guys aren't rolling fast enough. You guys are lazy today. Go run over there. And it was more of kids just start breaking down mentally. And that's what
I
it more
feel
was.
like it's more like to prepare you mentally than to physically prepare you, right?
So it was a very big learning lesson for me, because since then, I don't get, you know, even when things are going well, I don't allow myself to get too high. When things aren't going well, I won't get too low. So I think the Marine Corps does teach you to just stay in that kind of steady ground.
One of my favorite sayings, I have it written down in my office up above my computer, but no one has ever said, so-and-so made me a better person by taking it easy on me.
No.
Right? No. Like, and that's a tough pill to swallow, especially as a dad. You know, I'm like trying to take it. Kids, it's not I'm not here, you know, to be your friend. You know, it's my job as your father to push you, to guide you and make sure, you know, but also let you fall and make your mistakes, you know. But I'm going to be the first one, probably the hardest one on you in your life.
Yep.
I will be.
Especially
when get used to it.
When you know when you know their baseline. It took me a while with the kids class of jiu-jitsu. I started to learn the different personalities, and I started to learn where their thresholds are. And, you know, if I know one kid's output is usually up to there or up to here, and then, you know, we have class later tonight, and if I notice that kid's operating down here, I'm like, hey, I start putting a foot in your butt, like, hey, let's pick it up. And just because, you know, it's not picking on him, but I just know, I'm sure being the father, you know that even more. You know exactly what your kid is capable of. And you just need to push them to that limit or that boundary as often as you can, and as comfortable as you can, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. As comfortable as you can. That's key.
Yep.
And as a parent, I have 2 kids. Like, I can't talk to my son the same way I talk to my daughter.
Yes.
Right. And it's just like those different kids on the mat, or as you get into him, you know, working in a work environment, you know, you don't go and just talk to everyone and be like, this is how I am.
Exactly.
Take it or leave it. I mean, I hate that saying. Yeah.
And there are kids that you need to deal differently, because, you know, it's in sports. I mean, I can't speak about soccer. Some players, for you to make them play and perform well, you need to support.
Yes.
You know, support and keep supporting them and giving more confidence. Some players will work well like that, but some others you need to be rough and harsh.
Exactly.
And then they will start playing. So in sports that happens a lot, in different personalities too.
I think that's the magic, or like the secret sauce of being a coach or even being a parent. It's just identifying what motivates that kid. Yeah.
So Tony, when you were active in the Marines, did you go overseas?
Yes. 2008, I went to Al Anbar province, Iraq. I was a part of, I didn't even know it at the time, but I come back home, and I'm watching the news, and Obama keeps talking about the push. We're doing this push where we're just sending massive amounts of people overseas. And I'm listening, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then he starts naming the locations where I'm like, oh, well, I was a part of whatever that push was called. So I went over there, and it was while we were trying to transition a lot of the responsibility to the Iraq Army, Iraq Police. So we would do our normal patrols, our normal operations, and try to work a little closer to the Iraq officials and to say, hey, you know, we have this issue here, but we need to help you guys. We need to guide you guys into handling that, as opposed to us going in and handling the situation.
What, I can't wrap my head around what that's like. You know, going to this completely new place, and thank God you have a whole crew with you, right? Like, we're in this together, guys. What did you find that helped you kind of stay stable, stay positive? What was some of that?
And it's funny, I can barely wrap my head around going at this point. Like, I think back at those memories, and it almost feels like I'm looking at a different person out there. Like, I remember, you know, specific events, but you just feel like such a different person over there that I don't even identify with that individual. I remember a lot of, you know, you do your patrols and you do whatever work you needed done for the day. You sit post, but, you know, a lot of just downtime. That's why when you hear the stories of service members getting back and almost missing being overseas, it's just because you're around people that you care about all day long. I mean, you think of it now as an adult, and you're like, man, I need my alone time. Or, you know, sometimes I just need to shut it down, where over there, you needed to be surrounded by people all the time. So you watch some movies, you play some games, but for the most part, you're just hanging out with, you know, some of the closest people that you have in the entire world at that time.
Is there any war? I mean, when was the last time that people needed to go to another country and fight? Did the U.S. Army went to Russia or Ukraine now with this last thing that happened? Because I'm not.
I don't believe.
No, we've sent a lot of aid, but it's a very shaky situation, because if we start supporting with personnel, then that can just kind of unravel. Open up Pandora's box a little bit. So again, I'm no foreign policy expert. But as far as I know, as of right now, we're just mostly sending aid.
Yeah.
Financial aid and equipment.
And where other places that there is U.S. Army nowadays?
all
like
over the
today?
world.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
over the world. Yeah. So a lot of, I mean, we have bases, you know, all over the world. A lot of it's just keeping positive relationships.
Yeah.
With governments. Some of it's probably strategic. Some of it is just, hey, you know, it's nice to have good working relationships with other countries. Like I know you guys are from Brazil, so I know there's some operations that go where, you know, the U.S. will send troops down, and it's just, hey, let's train together. What do you got? What are you guys doing with what weapon systems are you firing? What are you learning about these weapon systems? Well, here are ours. Here's some of our new tactics, and we just share.
Okay. Nice.
If you were 17, 18 years old again, and knowing what you know now, would you enroll in
absolutely.
the Marine?
I mean,
I knew it.
I'm still in. So
Right. Well,
so,
true.
And I said it for a very long time that I would just stay in until I didn't enjoy it anymore, which obviously I still enjoy it. But the next thing I know, I'm 15 years in, and it's like, well, you know, there's no point in getting out now. I've got 5 more years to hit the 20, and that's a magic number.
What a great role to land in, though, with the Wounded Warriors.
Yes. Yeah, very lucky there.
Absolutely. So how did that come into fruition, Tony?
So I have a friend. He's a retired master sergeant. Him and I have served in 3 different units together now. But he has just, every now and then we would, you know, reach out to each other every couple of years, especially when we were separated in different units. And he would just say, hey, I've got this great opportunity that this unit's looking for Marines. I think you'd be a good fit. And I learned pretty early in my Marine Corps career, just don't say no to things. Kind of like that Jim Carrey, yes, man. I'll do that all day long. Like when this opportunity came up, hey, do you want to do it? Absolutely, let's do it. And I've had some of the best experiences in my life just by saying yes and just raising my hand. Hey, yeah, I'll do it. Cool, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And so this individual, Matt Sarn, again retired, Patrick Moore, him and I would stay in contact, and he was getting out of this Wounded Warrior gig and asked me if I wanted to pursue it. And I said, absolutely, let's do it. I can help wounded vets. I can help people that really need and deserve help. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You said that started like 15 years ago, right?
I believe so.
The program, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so important too, man. I mean, you hear of veterans coming back, and you know, you think you're coming home. There's going to be this great welcoming, and all these people are going to be there waiting. You know, and it's like crickets to many. You know,
and that's why a lot of service members struggle, even if you don't suffer from a lot of physical, mental injuries. Like we were talking about before, where you're surrounded by some of your best friends, and then you get out, and next thing you know, you're living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and you're the new guy at some job that you're not even that passionate about, and a lot of people struggle there.
Would you say that the main thing now would be the mental aspect when those people come back, or how they can get wounded like at this time if there's no combat?
So that's what is the big transition currently. 10 years ago, we'd have service members coming back with, limbs missing, concussions, brain injury. And more recently, it's a lot of mental issues.
Okay.
There's still, there's still Marines that were hurt 10 years ago that still don't have all of their issues figured out. So we still do have those, hey, I served in 2003, 2004, I was blown up this date and I'm still suffering. I still am not fully taken care of. But some of the more recent ones, it's some mental illness. And you still do get hurt even if you don't go into combat. The military will take its toll on your body, just training. So we'll get guys that are messed up just from, the regular service, not in combat. So,
I always heard that a lot of homeless people in the U.S. are veterans. I wonder what's still left for the U.S. government to do, or for someone to do, to stop that from happening. You think this program, I mean, I'm sure this is helping a lot on that case, but what else needs to be done? Because I was always told that veterans have a bunch of benefits, make good money, retirement, you know, government helps, discount in a bunch of stores.
Sure.
What's happening? What happens that makes those people become homeless?
Well, so there are a lot of benefits being offered, but it's very interesting that a lot of the benefits aren't widely known. So even when I was serving, you know, I was overseas, it was just, again, it was the culture. You know, 10 years ago, you just sucked it up. You know, if you popped something in your knee, you rolled your ankle, you sucked it up. And so within the last 10 years, I think we've kind of had a little culture shift where it's like, hey, you know, if you're broken, if you need help, go get it. Go get it documented. Go get it taken care of. So there was a long period of time where you just didn't talk about it. If you were hurt, if you were injured, especially if you were suffering mentally, now you were expected to deal with it and to come home and assimilate back with your family, back at your job, and it was your duty to fix yourself and to get back into the workforce.
Well, think about it too. You're basically trained to show no signs of weakness.
None. No emotion either. It was
Right.
something that I've dealt with in the last 5 years, where I was almost too good at just cutting off emotions with things. And then probably in the last 5 years, I'm like, I don't think this is healthy.
Yeah.
And it would start to
right.
spill out, you know, in other forms, you know. For me, it was I'd go to the gym and kind of release things, or I don't know, I just had other ways of releasing. But just the last 5 years, I'm like, it's not good just bottling up and compartmentalizing, you know, sorrow or fear. Where in the military and, you know, in law enforcement, you had to. I couldn't show up on a scene, you know, where there's, you know, somebody needing emergency care, a domestic, a fight. I can't show up and be like, oh my God, there's so much blood. It's like, no, you just have to show up and very stoic and handle things without emotion. And it's not good. You need to have a release, yes.